It's 2 o'clock in the morning on a dirt road in the Mississippi Delta. A man is at the door of a sharecropper's house with a flashlight in one hand and a pistol in the other. The men at the door want to know whether there are boys here from Chicago. Inside, the boys are asleep in their beds. Welcome to Same Day, Different Century. I'm Zach. Today is August 28th. The boy those men came for was 14 years old and had been in Mississippi for a week. Emmett Lewis Till was born in Chicago on the 25th of July, 1941, at Cook County Hospital. His mother, Mamie, had been born near Webb, Mississippi, in Tallahatchie County, and had left as a small child when her family joined the Great Migration north to the mill town of Argo, outside Chicago. Millions of black Southerners moved to cities like Chicago for wages and schools and a measure of safety, and then, every summer, sent their children back south to the relatives who had stayed. Emmett caught polio in the first grade. It left him with a stutter and weak ankles, and he wore special shoes because of it. The family called him Bobo. By 14, he was a broad-shouldered boy who liked clothes and liked to get a laugh, and who had grown up in a city that was segregated. The Delta was a different country. Its economy still ran on cotton and sharecropping, an arrangement that kept most black families in permanent debt to the landowner who supplied the seed and the store credit. Black Mississippians made up nearly half the state's population and were almost entirely shut out of voting, and in 1955, that structure was under pressure. The Supreme Court had ruled school segregation unconstitutional the year before, and in May of 1955, had ordered desegregation to proceed. The white response was organized and immediate. The first Citizens Council formed in Indianola, Mississippi, in the summer of 1954, and the council spread across the Delta, using credit, employment, and mortgages to punish black people who registered to vote. Where that failed, there was violence. In May of 1955, the Reverend George Lee was shot dead in Belzoni after refusing to remove his name from the voter rolls. On August 13th, barely a week before Emmett arrived, Lamar Smith was shot in daylight on the courthouse lawn in Brookhaven, in front of witnesses, for helping black voters cast absentee ballots. Nobody was indicted for either killing. Emmett came south anyway, invited by his great-aunt Elizabeth Wright. He traveled by train with his great-uncle Moses Wright, a sharecropper and preacher everyone called Preacher, and his cousin Wheeler Parker. His mother gave him instructions about how to behave. She also gave him his father's ring to wear. On the evening of Wednesday, August 24th, Emmett and a group of cousins drove into Money in Leflore County to Bryant's Grocery and Meat Market, a small store whose customers were mostly the black families who worked the surrounding land. Roy Bryant, the owner, was away hauling shrimp. His wife, Carolyn Bryant, was minding the counter. What occurred inside is the most disputed point in the case. At trial, Carolyn Bryant testified that Emmett grabbed her and spoke to her lewdly. She gave that testimony with the jury out of the room, and the judge ruled it inadmissible, on the reasoning that nothing said in a store could justify an abduction and killing 4 days later. The cousins who were present, including Simeon Wright and Wheeler Parker, said for the rest of their lives that no such thing happened. The accounts converge on one act. As Emmett left, he whistled. His mother later said she had taught him to whistle to get past words his stutter caught on, though whether that explains this whistle cannot be established. In 2017, the historian Timothy Tyson reported that Carolyn Bryant had told him the physical part of her testimony was untrue. She denied ever saying it. The Justice Department found no recording of such a statement and closed its investigation in 2021 without resolving the question. 3 days passed. Word reached Roy Bryant when he returned. Sometime after midnight on Sunday the 28th, he and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, drove to Moses Wright's house outside Money. Bryant gave his name at the door. Milam had the pistol and the flashlight, and it was Milam who shone it into the bedroom where the boys slept. Elizabeth Wright offered the men money. Moses told them the boy was from up north and didn't know how things were done. The men forced their way into the house and grabbed Emmett, walking him out to a truck. Wright testified that someone waiting in the vehicle confirmed the boy was the right one, and that the voice sounded like a woman's. Simeon Wright, who had been sharing the bed with his cousin, described a third man at the house. Only 2 men were ever charged. Later that morning, an 18-year-old named Willie Reed was walking to a store near Drew, in Sunflower County, and saw a pickup truck with white men in the cab and other people in the bed turn onto a plantation managed by Leslie Milam, J.W.'s brother. From the barn, Reed testified, he heard licks and hollering. He then saw J.W. Milam come out of the barn wearing a pistol. Emmett Till was beaten, shot in the head, and thrown into the Tallahatchie River with a cotton gin fan weighing 75 pounds tied to him with barbed wire. On August 31st, a boy checking a fishing line on the Tallahatchie saw a foot above the water. The body was identified by his father's ring. A forensic examination conducted 50 years later, when the body was exhumed, documented fractures of both wrists, a fractured left thigh bone, multiple skull fractures, and a gunshot wound to the head. Some of what circulates about this case is false, and Simeon Wright spent decades correcting it. There was no photograph of a white girl in Emmett's wallet. By Simeon's account, nobody dared him to speak to Carolyn Bryant in the store. He also was not castrated. The documented injuries are sufficient. The Tallahatchie County Sheriff ordered the body buried in Mississippi at once. Mamie Bradley refused to let her son be buried in Mississippi and pressed until the body was shipped north instead. The casket reached Chicago on September 2nd, and she was told not to open it. She opened it anyway and identified him. She refused to let the mortician retouch the face, and she kept the casket open. She said, "Let the world see what I have seen." The funeral was held at Robert's Temple Church of God in Christ in Bronzeville, and the viewing ran for days. Crowd estimates run from tens of thousands into 6 figures. She also allowed photographs. Jet magazine published David Jackson's picture of Emmett in the casket in its issue of September 15th, and the Chicago Defender ran it as well. Black Mississippians, led by the physician and entrepreneur T.R.M. Howard from the all-black town of Mound Bayou, went looking for witnesses in the days before trial. He found Willie Reed and a woman named Amanda Bradley, and housed Mamie Bradley, the Black Press, and a visiting congressman at Howard's home under armed guard, because no hotel in the district would take them, and their safety was not otherwise assured. The trial opened on September 19th. Moses Wright took the stand as the state's first witness and pointed at the man who had come to his door, in a courtroom where the reporters were segregated by race. Willie Reed testified and afterward left Mississippi, changed his name, and lived quietly around Chicago for the rest of his life. The defense argued that the body was too decomposed to identify. On September 23rd, an all-white, all-male jury acquitted both men after about an hour. A juror later said it would have been even quicker if they hadn't stopped for a soda break. The kidnapping charge remained, and both men had admitted taking Emmett from the house. In October, Mississippi's senior senator, James Eastland, obtained Lewis Till's sealed Army court-martial file and leaked it. Emmett's father had been hanged by the Army in Italy in 1945, convicted of murder and rape. Segregationist newspapers ran it hard. In November, a Leflore County grand jury declined to indict for kidnapping. In January of 1956, Look magazine published a story it had paid Bryant and Milam for, in which the two of them described killing Emmett. The double jeopardy clause of the Fifth Amendment meant they could not be retried. 6 weeks before that article ran, on the 1st of December, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat in Montgomery. Years later, she said that she thought of Emmett Till and could not go back. Mamie Till Mobley went back to school, taught in Chicago's classrooms for a quarter century, and kept telling the story until her death in 2003. The federal anti-lynching law passed in 2022 carries Emmett's name, and in 2023, the church, the courthouse, and the riverbank became a national monument. At Grabaugh Landing, the place the country marks as where the body came out of the water, the memorial sign has been stolen and shot through repeatedly. The version standing there now weighs 500 pounds and is bulletproof. That's Same Day, Different Century. I'm Zach. We'll be back Monday with another date, another story. Thanks for listening.